Do you feel like you're do you feel like you're able to keep up with everything that the program's expecting, and you've got kind of a good rhythm down as to when you can complete your activities?
I didn't get that question, sorry.
Oh, I was curious if you feel as though you've got a good rhythm down for getting your activities completed for the program.
Um, yeah, I guess so. I guess I'm still trying to get things, balance
Yeah,
things out a bit, but I guess it's been good so far. Yeah.
it's fast. It's pretty fast paced.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you can push through, you're almost there.
Yeah. Couple of weeks more.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
All right.
Let me open up my tabs here. How do you think how did you had power this week? How do you think the rest of the lesson went?
Pardon?
I said, how do you think the rest of your lesson went?
Um, so for this week, I tried to go according to the rubric because I realized the previous video, I didn't really look at the rubric. So I kept the rubric really close to me this time to try and make sure I was ticking a few of the things. Like,
Good, good. No, I think that that's a good start. I actually mentioned that in my evaluation. I
yeah.
keep it close by. I think there may have still been some discrepancies this week,
Mhm.
but that's a good habit, I think, to have.
Yeah.
Um, especially even when you're writing your reflection,
Okay.
because I think the more detailed you can be on that, if you realize, oh, I didn't include this in my lesson, you can still develop a thought and a plan, an afterthought. Uh,
Okay.
I realize I like specifically I mentioned cross-disciplinary um, subjects, meaning you're discussing nouns and adjectives, but you're going to link it to something in math or social studies or whatever. So if you realize, oh, I didn't really do that, you could write it into your reflection. And
Okay.
that would support you when, especially when, my evaluation, but then also your mentor or your who am I? Your instructor. It could
Sure.
say the same of like, okay, well, she's at least aware that this is something we want to see. And so she
Okay.
I would use your reflection very heavily.
Okay.
Uh, but we're getting ahead because I was going to talk about just the things that I liked in it. I thought that your little circle time was really sweet. And I feel like it's a good connection for them to, I don't know, my kids at that age love to share. It doesn't even matter, like, what the question is. It's
Yeah.
a very important time for connecting. I think it's going to give them good skills for speaking. I love the turn taking with the stuffed animal because everybody wants to hold a stuffed. It's very age appropriate. So that was great. Specifically, I like that, the little girl that shared, she didn't quite answer the question. She had a very cute cliche response, what she say, smooth sailing or something like that.
Yeah.
And I like that you extended it because you basically said, that's great, but that doesn't answer my question. Like, how so? And so it's a good way to, yeah, give them some deeper thinking, some critical thinking, connect it to their own real life. So I like that. Let's see. You had some good student response where you were asking questions and they were able to give you a response back. I like the introduction of your positive reinforcement. I want to hear more about that. How do you think it went? Your superstar student.
Oh, yeah. So I think last 2 weeks you were trying to suggest something to me with the student who was a bit distracted. So I sat there and I was trying to figure out how I could just get something to get them excited. And I realized it really did work because everyone wanted their cards to go up. And then it was like, oh, I need to do something to get my cards up. I need to do something to get my cards up. So it was like they were just trying to comport themselves and then listen. And yeah, I think it worked.
Yes, yes. And it's funny because again, it's a small thing, but
Yeah.
they're like super into it at this age.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that actually. So I did your evaluation. Some of the things maybe I asked about or commented about were because I couldn't tell in the video. So I
Okay.
didn't realize that that was the cardboard you
Oh,
at one
okay.
point. So just ignore my question of like, did you frequent the board?
Oh,
Because you probably just didn't show it, but that's great. I think if you felt like it was helpful and the behaviors were good, then that means you were doing it frequently enough, and you're
okay.
going to be doing it a lot at the beginning,
Yeah.
so that you get that buy-in. Oh,
Yeah.
this is worth my time. So, maybe they got their cards up, and then at the end, maybe the person, I don't know, chooses something from a bucket, or I don't know how you want to do it, but you want to definitely make them decide it was a good choice for me to act that way. And then eventually you don't have to reward as much, or it becomes a classroom collection or something like that.
All right.
But you want to definitely keep them interested. And at the beginning, it means you're doing it a lot. But that's good. I'm glad that you felt like they were excited about that. It can be so small. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like it's very easy as long as you can just stay in it too. Because I do it with my own kids, but then after about a week, I'm like, oh yeah, where'd that chart go? Or oh yeah, like why am I still rewarding you for something you're doing?
So
It can be
with the kindergarten class I'm working with at school at work. So during their lunch break, they're expected to eat all their food, and some of them really don't want to eat. So the teacher asked me to give them stickers when they're done, and you could just see everyone was just in a hurry to eat it. And oh, Miss Mel, I'm done. I need my sticker now. And you realize it was really small, but they were really excited over
exactly.
it.
Exactly. Yes. And that's great. Yeah. You keep a stash of stickers around when you feel like the lesson is going awry. You start it up, and it doesn't have to be the same every time. You can always, use it as needed. But I know that like my own kids' classrooms, they do like a school-wide competition. And like the prize is just that their teacher will wear a cape for the day. Like it's not even,
Yeah.
it's not even that big of a deal. But they will compete against all the other classrooms to be polite in the hallways or something. And they're so excited about it. So you can change it up. You can use it as needed and just make it simple.
Sure.
But good. I'm glad that is something you can add to your toolbox. Let's see. I thought it was a fun idea for them to draw, I guess, basically whether they were on the noun team or the verb team, I think.
Yeah.
They opened up that paper and it sorted them. I think that's fun because it got them just interested in what was next, instead of saying like, okay, you sit over here, you sit over there. It kind of it drew them in. I'm trying to think of the word that we would call that, but yeah, it's good. It's a good way to draw in kids, to, even though it's a very simple way to just sort them. I like that idea. Let's see. Okay, so along those lines, though, what I did feel is that, especially for your age group, I would encourage you to continue to use more visuals, or actual concrete objects, because a lot of your activities can involve discussion, or you asking a question and then them giving you an answer out loud. And while I think that can work for sometimes, and for some students, I would encourage you to try different response options where they can create, draw, submit, work together as a group. But that would also take in those kids that are struggling, because sometimes when you ask a question aloud, if they missed the question or the concept, it's just going to kind of spiral from there. But if you by chance asked the same question, let me see, I feel like I made some notes of that. So let's say when you first asked, what's a noun? If you had an example of a place, a person, and a thing, it might be helpful for those kids who are kind of already like, I don't know what you're talking about, to get to see you talk about it. So anything visual. And I think instead of thinking, well, I'll just rephrase it, or I'll use easier words, sometimes that still isn't going to support a kiddo that needs visual. And
Right.
a lot of time, auditory by itself, no matter how easy we make it, can just not reach some kids. So I would always keep that in mind of what visuals can I have? How can I have them? How can I scaffold my question? Meaning, if I ask it aloud, I'm not really supporting the student. But if I ask them to point, or if I, like basically you're not asking them to give you a verbal response. They're having to create a verbal response to a question they may not have understood. And that's essentially two ways that you've lost them. But, and I'm not saying that happened in this class, because I think your kids actually already knew a noun and a verb.
Yes,
So
they did.
I'm going to touch on that in a minute
They did.
because that would change your lesson then. But you did have one student that you said seemed to be struggling. So in that moment, I would just always prepare, and it makes the lesson more fun, right? If you are holding up, like a picture of Disney World or something that's age appropriate, they're going to get super pumped about it. And then maybe a word card that says noun and a word card that says verb. And they're going to basically sort. You're going to hold up picture after picture, and they're going to make a verb pile and they're going to make a noun pile. Something like that, where you're not necessarily pointing out that, hey, you don't know what a noun and a verb is. You're just supporting so that a kid who doesn't know is going to see it over and over and over again. One thing after another. That's a place, that's a place, that's a place, which makes it a noun, noun, noun. So that would be my thought, is just always think of visual manipulatives, ways that you can have the kids come up and work with their hands instead of just answering orally, especially at a young age. And so that was what I was going to say, though. I noticed that your kids quickly knew what a verb and a noun was.
Yeah.
So in the event that happens, you would say, okay, hang on, I don't need to teach this again. They've mastered it. They already told me, or we're accessing prior knowledge. So if they access prior knowledge because they know what a noun is and they know what a verb is, then I don't know if your goal still needs to be deciding what a noun and a verb is. You may have to extend that goal of, well, now I want them to write a sentence involving a noun and a verb accurately, or something along those lines. Like, what is your actual goal? Because if they've mastered your goal of being able to determine a noun and a verb, you don't need to teach it anymore. So that's kind of the reason you're doing something like an entry ticket or an access of prior knowledge, because if they already know it, then you're going to have to work on the fly, because you were thinking, oh, this is something they've not learned. Which again, I know you're working with kids of different varying ages. So, but nonetheless, you are going to have kids in your class who have already mastered that. And you don't want them to spend the whole time just basically telling you what they already knew. So that's the purpose of the differentiation too, is to be able to say, all right, well, this group of 3 kids already knows the nouns and the verbs. So what is the next step? What is the next thing I need to make sure they know, because they've already mastered this? And then, student C doesn't know a verb, but they do know a noun. So, I'm going to focus on verbs. So you really got to use your entry ticket. You got to use what they tell you, and then be prepared to move your lesson in that direction.
All right.
And I think that's why it's so important to kind of have those options when you build a lesson of, if my lesson goes this direction, I'm ready for those kids that already know this. If it goes this direction, I have support for the kids that are struggling.
All right.
Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. But I assume that's what it was, that you've got different aged kids that were helping you out.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically that was just kind of my thoughts. I think everything you're doing is great. And now we're going to start to really fine tooth, be a little picky on it, because the other question I was going to ask you is what your technology options and limitations are.
So there's a TV I was supposed to use, but currently, I think they had issues. They weren't getting a cable for me. That's why I just haven't been able to use it, and I just make use of the laptops instead. Yeah,
How many laptops do you have access to?
I have 5 at the moment, but
Okay.
I wanted them to work in groups. That's why I had them share.
Okay. So I want to present an idea to you in thinking about technology, because it's very easy for us to take technology and to use it like a book or to use it like a glorified pen and paper. So when we hand kids a computer and we say, I want you to read this content and answer questions from it, we're not really letting them use technology. We're basically just handing them a book because all they're doing is reading off the screen. What we want when we say use technology is that the kids are creating, they're researching, they're gaming, or they're quizzing, or they're working with the technology. Do you see the difference?
Yeah, I do. I do.
And so the same thing can happen when we use an iPad, because we can say, hey, I want you to use even a stylus. I want you to practice your letters on the iPad, but we've not given them anything different than a pencil and a paper and that chance. So I would suggest continuing to look up maybe some research-based options that your computers could handle for your future lessons of what kind of, could I use it for a quiz? Could the students could they drag and drop pictures to represent a noun or a verb? And you can coordinate it. So you could give them, just to keep it age appropriate and not on the internet or whatever, you could give them all the pictures they're going to use.
Okay.
And then you're going to provide them maybe a T chart. I don't know if you know what that is, but you've got noun on one side, verb on the other, and you've got a T in the middle to sort it. And they're going to drag and drop the pictures into the correct category.
Okay.
It can be as simple as that, but the difference is that they are manipulating the technology. They're not just using it as a book or as a pencil and paper. They're having to say, this picture fits in this category, and I know this because it's a person or whatever. So, and that's a basic description of it, but basically think about how you're having them utilize the technology, and is it something you can't do without the technology? That would be what we're looking for. An app, a way to assess, a way to create and research. And it would just be that you need the technology to make this happen. And that's how you'll know, I think, that you're using it in a way where the kids are actually getting to explore technology. Okay. But with 5 laptops, totally fine if you still do a group work. And it would just be kind of coming up with, what does this look like when they're turn taking, or are they playing a game together? Can they play this game against each other? Am I creating the game? And you can dive into some deep, dark holes of technology. There's people who make a game out of everything, and they have a homepage, and the kids log in and click around the classroom. And, if they open up a book, that's going to be the story that they read for the day. And then if they go open up a paper, that's going to be the questions in regards to the story. So you can get as deep or as heavy in it as you want, but I would want to see it being used in a way where they're creating, using it, and age appropriately. So depending, if you've got kindergartners, it's going to be very different than if you've got, 3rd graders.
Okay.
But I would just encourage you to try a little bit of extending that technology.
All right. So I just wanted to know, is it possible to teach not the same thing I taught, but maybe just under nouns and verb next 2 weeks?
So you're saying you teach?
Yeah, so like use the same standard.
Oh, using the same standard. Well, because you don't have to do a video for the next 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Or for your next video?
No, for my next video.
I think for your next video, you're on to standard 6.
Yes, but with the common core standard.
Oh, that might be a question for your
Instructor.
your class and your instructor. Yeah, I'm not sure of what they're expecting because, every school is different. Not everybody's using those same standards anyway, and the pacing of how they're moving through them. So it's very likely you could reuse them, but I'm not sure if she's expecting to see unique ones from you.
Okay.
I do know you're going to, like, if you're working with the same kids, you'd want a little bit more into the nouns and verb concept because they seemed to understand it. So you may not need 2 weeks on that subject, if that's what you mean.
Okay.
And that's kind of what in your evaluation I mentioned, like, I believe that you understand the content, but I want you to look closely at whether you are understanding the student's understanding of the content. And if they understand it, you got to move on. And so just that awareness is something that we want to continue to build in you guys as you would take notice of, am I teaching something they already know? And so I don't know, do you think they would need a couple more weeks on nouns and verbs, or how do you see extending it to fit kids who might already know it?
I don't think they would.
Yeah, I kind of think, and you've kind of dabbled in different subjects. You've had math, and now some language arts. So I don't know if you want to jump back and forth and go back to math, if that fits better for what you're thinking for the next video. But that seems like something you could always do too. Let's see. Okay, and so then again, I noted that your reflection was maybe a little bit more vague this week. And just that idea that you could really support any of the areas on the rubric you may not have fit into a deep dive reflection, and in ways that are a little bit less vague, I guess. So that would be my suggestion, is to be more specific about, like you mentioned, you were discussing the student that was confused, so you tried to explain the concept in simple language and gave him clues. I would maybe dive into that a little bit more and describe specifically like how you'll support, or what went well and what, like, did the concept of using simple language support him or giving him clues, or do you feel like you should have circled back around and retaught it differently, and that kind of a part to your reflection. Just discussing whether you felt like it was supportive enough. Yeah. And then again, I know that you kept your rubric close by for your lesson, but I would do the same when you're doing your reflection. Okay. And I think you'll be able to, because mainly the categories that you broke down under standard 4 and standard 5, like some of them were still missing. And so I have to evaluate on each section. And so I was going to touch specifically on, so yeah, the reason I'm coming back to it is because it is a lower evaluation this week. And a lot of that just comes from standard 5, application of content. I didn't see the differing perspectives or interdisciplinary mention at all into your lessons, and I didn't see it incorporated. So that's an insufficient, and it's going to pull the evaluation down a little bit. So just so you're aware, but that's what we want. We want to be able to talk about that kind of stuff and to say, like, keep the rubric nearby you, but touch on every category. Even if you feel like you got 3 of them, you want to go for that 4th one, because I can't mark it if I don't see it. So just know that's all that is, but that I am seeing a lot of growth in you. And then when you look at your rubric, read to the bottom of each category, because it kind of scaffolds the expectations. So, and I'm sure you've noticed that, but for example, on application of content on standard 5, also, this is the part 1. It mentions that you create projects and lessons related to real world problems but do not adequately guide students in analyzing a problem or issue. But then the next category up also adds on incorporating appropriate technology. So if you're missing maybe the appropriate technology, I have to go to the category below, even though you may have had everything else in the proficient. And so then in the same way, if we jumped up to the outstanding in that category, it would have also mentioned that you're using perspectives from varied disciplines and multiple forms of technology. So it does get pretty particular on how to keep growing. And so I just want to point out that, you know, choose what area you want to work towards, but just make sure you read, and it's going to add on expectations for each section.
Sure.
But if all of those aren't there, then I need to jump down to the next category. So hopefully that kind of explains. But I wrote you a ton of notes on what we just talked about in this meeting. And so hopefully you'll have the recording, but then you can also have some notes. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this upcoming week, and any questions that you're feeling stumped on?
This week, honestly, I don't think I have questions. I don't think I have any questions.
Okay, good. Well, I still think you're a very natural teacher, and we're going through very, like I said, very detailed things that are not always going to be a part of your lessons.
Yeah.
But it's just that awareness, and that, like, telling us that you are aware and you are able to produce a lesson that would incorporate this, especially when you're thinking about it. Not all lessons are going to look this specific. So just keep that in mind, that this is probably going to be more than a principal is going to come in and evaluate. But that's what we want to do. We want to produce candidates that just wow the principals, because they're covering details that may not be expected. But yeah, I'm excited to see what you keep experimenting in. And I'm really proud of you for trying all the different things. And I know it's a lot to think about, incorporate, and I think you're doing awesome. I can definitely tell you are trying new things. So that's fun.
Thank you.
So let's see, next week, you don't have a video, I don't think.
No, I don't.
But that may not be. So what is the next date that you would to meet on in time to get your submissions done?
A minute. Okay.
So I almost think you have 2 more units. I'm showing your next video is unit 8.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not sure if you're already in unit 6 this week.
Okay, hold on a second. Yeah, I think the next one is unit 8.
Okay.
Yeah, because unit 7 is peer reviewing.
Yeah. And have you had your VC for unit 6 yet this week?
Pardon?
Have you had your unit 6 VC yet? Because we just discussed unit 5.
No, we haven't had unit 6 yet. Unit 6 should be this.
So you're technically 3 weeks out.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to do meet in 2 weeks? Do you want to do meet in 3 weeks, or what is helpful?
Let's make it 2.
Make it 2.
Okay, so I'm supposed to share my I prepared a project plan for which unit is that? I think unit 10.
Yeah.
Yes. I prepared a project plan for that, and I'm supposed to share with you. I haven't done that yet, so maybe I'll just share with you after here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry, you're saying you don't have it done yet?
No, I have it done, but I just haven't shared it with you. So I'll just share it with you. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you need to have a meeting on it? Do you have to record a meeting over it?
No, I don't
Just
think.
discussion. Okay.
Yes, but if anything comes up, I think I'll just let you know. I'm not too sure we have to record anything, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, just let me know. And we if we can't get together, I can voice record something or
All right.
whatever.
Sure,
Fine.
sure. That'll be good.
Yeah, I like those projects. Those are fun. They changed it this time. So I think it's mainly hypothetical. You don't have to actually do and run the project. Is that correct?
Um,
Do you
I
have to implement it? Like actually?
yes, I think we have to. I think we have to.
Okay. Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm excited to see it.
So in the case where maybe you can't implement the entire thing, what do you do? Would you just do a portion of it and then present
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I've had people, the main thing is submitting like artifacts, like pictures of emails that you've sent to people to start, requiring maybe the permission. I emailed my principal, here's what it said, here's their response, that kind of thing. The plan, the timeline, I'm going to do this in October. This is what I'm going to do in November, December, and you're going to take it maybe into spring. And so you can just give your projected dates of what you plan to do. When's my first meeting going to be, or something like that, if you're doing something along those lines. And then if you're actually going to start it, you could take pictures of students in the actual, or teachers or whatever. Everybody has such a different plan. That's why I'm like, none of it's probably relating to you right now. But like, for example, I had someone once want to start a running program just for girls because they felt like it was just a need at the school. And so they submitted maybe like the flyer that they did to post around the school. And then I think they submitted again the permissions that they got from the teachers. And then they started the running club and got pictures of the girls at their first practice. And so it's things like that. It can be pretty easy to put together. And then it could also be more paperwork and email related because you're not actually going to implement it before your timeline.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps. As far as I know, like I said, they just changed it. And I haven't instructed on the new module 8 yet, but
Okay.
that's my understanding, is you can just hypothetically, here's what my plans are, and this will happen at this point in the year, but here's what I've done to get started.
All right.
Okay, so I'm struggling. Oh, well, that's why, because it's not November yet. So next 2 weeks would put us at the 11th.
Okay.
I believe, right? Thursday still works for you.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, so do you want to do Thursday, same time, so you're not up till midnight? I mean, you probably are still up midnight.
Yeah.
Sorry, girl.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
All right.
So we'll do 6 p.m. and you want to we'll book that one and then decide if you want to do the week after for anything also. Sure. All right. Well, somewhere where I don't trust me in my, it went to Halloween. I'm changing it now. That's so. Okay. And I'll just wait to see stuff from you about the day before then.
All right. Sure. Sorry.
I'm going to go in and finalize your evaluation. Keep in mind that it's still beginning. You're going to just keep fine-tuning it. Okay. Don't be disappointed. But remember to look closely at your rubric.
All right.
I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye.